What the? June 15th? June 15th? Slammiversary is in less than 2 weeks! Does TNA know about this? No, this won't do at all!
This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time TNA have a big pay-per-view, they won't wait until the go-home show to announce over half the card. Imagine my surprise when I realized that Slammiversary was less than 2 weeks away. I knew it was coming up pretty soon, but not that soon. And you sure wouldn't know it by watching Impact either. After watching what TNA gave us in this go-around, would you have thought that there was less than 2 weeks left before one of their biggest shows of the year based on that episode? You would think that with TNA only doing 3 or 4 actual pay-per-views a year now, that the hype and build-up for each of them would improve, right? When you've got a great deal more time to promote, advertise, and get your ducks in a row for each one, there is absolutely no excuse for each pay-per-view to not be like a huge event with a lot of momentum and a great card laid out well in advance. So please explain to me, TNA, how it is that you came into the last Impact before the Slammiversary Go-Home show with only 2, count them, 2, I repeat, 2 matches announced! What the fuck? How does this even happen? Jesus Christ, TNA, and you wonder why no one buys your pay-per-views? Maybe, just maybe, people would buy them if they actually knew what matches were going to happen on them a little bit sooner than the 11th fucking hour.
Oh, you were not aware of this?
And what makes this even more baffling is that in a lot of cases here, the storylines are so nebulous that you can't even guess to within a reasonable doubt what the card is going to be based on what happens on Impact. What's the tag title match going to be? I don't know. Will Bobby Roode be there? No fucking clue. Will Austin Aries have a match? If so, who will he be facing? Beats the hell out of me. Are you starting to see a problem here?
Urge to kill rising.
The opener was perfectly fine. I liked that they started with Samoa Joe after his big return last week, and frankly, I think they would have been stupid not to do that. I also like seeing Austin Aries get involved. These guys are currently part of the top echelon of babyfaces in this new status quo, and that's a very good thing. But I really have to question this decision of having MVP pit Joe and Aries, as well as a number of other babyfaces this week and last week too, against each other. From MVP's perspective, it makes a lot of sense, weakening his enemies at no cost to himself. But when the pay-per-view is coming up so soon, and most of the card is still completely up in the air, is this really the best way to go? It yielded some interesting situations and some fun matches while they lasted, but did this do very much to hype matches for the pay-per-view? I'm not so sure that it did. Davey vs. Eddie had some terrific chain wrestling, and was helped by Kenny King interjecting himself to remind the audience who the real enemy is here. Then the Wolves attack him, and I guess that works as build-up if the Wolves are facing Kenny and Lashley at Slammiversary, but I don't know if they are. I suspect they are, but it's not confirmed at the time I'm filming this. And now they're teasing that Kenny might be doing something with Austin Aries, so hell if I know what's going on here. And the Wolves could be facing the Von Erichs at the pay-per-view for all we know. And if that's the case, then where the fuck are those guys right now? Wouldn't something a little more traditional have been better here? Like Kenny and Lashley just laying out the Wolves post-match? I mean, just give us some kind of indication of what we should expect on June 15th. Same thing with this Joe versus Aries loser gets fired match. Forget about how little that stipulation in this match actually felt like they meant. This was really just a lot of setup for the 8-man tag main event. And I guess it did what it needed to do as far as that goes, but wasn't there a more direct way to go about this that would have given us our main event and maybe given us more of a concrete idea of what to expect at the pay-per-view? I really didn't see why Joe versus Aries even needed to happen at all. You could have easily set up the 8-man tag in the opening segment and used this time for other stuff. And while I'm on the subject, how exactly did MVP get roped into the main event in the first place? Bully Ray says he wants an 8-man tag First Blood match. Kenny King accepts the challenge on behalf of the heels, and even though MVP, the director of wrestling operations, mind you, does not want to do this, does not want that match to happen, it does anyway? Why? Because Kenny King wanted to do it? Since when does he have that kind of power? Just because Kenny wants to book a match does not mean that MVP has to go along with it. MVP is the boss. He books the matches. If he didn't want to do this match, why didn't he just tell Bully Ray to go fuck himself regardless of what Kenny wanted? I'm so confused.
This is unbelievable. This doesn't make any sense.
So that was 2 big segments, 3 counting the main event, and afterward, I was no closer to knowing what the card for Slammiversary was going to be than I was before. I'm not sure what you're going for here, TNA. I'm really not. Bram versus Willow ends in a DQ when Magnus finally embraces his vicious side. I have no real complaints about that, other than wanting Bram to get more offense in during the match. But what exactly are we setting up here? Is it going to be Willow versus Magnus at the pay-per-view? Will it be Willow versus Bram, or Willow versus Magnus and Bram in another handicap match? I'm just saying, some clarification here would be really nice. And speaking of clarification, what the hell is the plan for the Knockouts at the pay-per-view? I think it's going to be Angelina versus Gail for the title. Gail, who didn't even appear on the show this week because they were too busy with the Madison Brittany stuff. And I do appreciate that Brittany is getting more focus now, but when the pay-per-view is 2 weeks out and you don't even have your Knockouts title match announced yet, is this really the right time and place for all that? The only way it makes any sense to focus on this stuff right now is if you're doing a fatal 4-way at Slammiversary with Angelina defending against Gail, Madison, and Brittany, and there's no way you could justify that at this point because Brittany has lost every single match she's had since she beat Gail in her debut, a win that now feels like a total fluke.
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
Robbie E is afraid of clowns. Robbie E is a clown. Oh my god, what a train wreck this was. Is it too early to label this bromance menagerie thing the worst feud in wrestling today? I swear, this promo segment was so bad. I was seriously tempted to bash my head against the wall until the memory that it ever existed was violently forced out of my brain. What the fuck was this? Robbie is afraid of clowns just because. The Menagerie come out to antagonize the bromance for reasons that still have not been explained. Zema Ion blasts his air horn in response to Crazy Steve blowing his little clown horn thing.
He's crazy.
And then they fight. And apparently this is a feud now? Why?
I'd rather get a high colonic with a hot poker.
That's not a joke. I'm dead serious here. Why is this a fucking feud? The Menagerie attacked the bromance 2 weeks in a row for no discernible reason whatsoever, even though they're apparently the babyfaces. Robbie is afraid of clowns because I guess he just didn't look like enough of a no-talent comic relief jobber bitch already, and this is just gonna be a feud based on that? No, fuck that! That sucks! Forget about the bromance being worthless waste of time ass clowns. Forget about having no clue what to make of the Menagerie. You want to make it a feud? How about this? Give me a fucking reason why they're fighting. You can start by explaining why exactly the Menagerie attacked the bromance last week. I still won't give one single shit about the feud, but at least then there might be an actual reason for it to be on the screen when I take my piss break.
Oh, my brother! Testify!
There was too much weird comedy on this show. Ken Anderson comes out dressed up like a cowboy as a way to mock James Storm, and they tried to play this up as funny, but he was striking the wrong notes here. James Storm felt like the babyface in this situation until he started healing the crowd. It got a lot better after they started brawling, and it was nice of TNA to actually take the time to announce a third match for the pay-per-view that's less than 2 weeks away, but to be honest, I really don't know why these two are feuding either. Storm accidentally hit Anderson when he was aiming for Gunner a few weeks ago, and ever since then, it's like they're fighting just for the sake of fighting because they don't have anything else to do. Is this really the best thing you could come up with for a Slammiversary program for these guys? Really?
Really?
Why on earth was this 8-man tag a First Blood match of all things? Really? Why? The match was alright, sure, but what was the point of the stipulation? And if it was a First Blood match, why were they wrestling it pretty much like a normal tag match up until the very end when Bully Ray hit EC3 with one chain shot to end it? Bastard! No one makes the new American icon of wrestling bleed his own blood. You just signed your own death warrant, Bully Ray. There's gonna be hell to pay come Slammiversary. Hashtag justice for Spud. Hashtag justice for EC3! Wow. And here I thought you were actually going somewhere meaningful with EC3's undefeated streak. But then you have him take his first loss since joining the company last year in a random TV tag match like it had no real significance whatsoever. Well, boy is my face red. This is how you're doing the final hype for Slammiversary? After this main event, all I felt was confused about what the big matches at the pay-per-view are gonna be. I'm pretty sure that's not what you want, TNA. In terms of hyping the pay-per-view, this Impact was a mess, plain and simple. I'm still not sure what a lot of the card is going to be, and TNA seemed to be in no real hurry to fill in the blanks. After this week, it kind of feels like Slammiversary is almost an inconvenience for the writers. Something that they have to cover when they don't seem to really want to, because it's like they view it as a show that's going to interrupt the flow of whatever story they're trying to tell here. It's like they're forgetting that the whole point of storylines in the first place is to build to the pay-per-views, where you'd think they're supposed to climax. But after this show, I don't know what they're building up to in most cases, what the climax is going to be exactly, or even when we're going to get it. Hell, the biggest feud they've got going right now is Dixie Carter versus MVP. That doesn't sell me on Slammiversary, and I have no idea how or why it's supposed to.
This whole show is ridiculous!
TNA, if you could, please try to announce the full Slammiversary card on the Go Home show next week. I don't think that's asking for too much. And maybe come up with some better reasons, or reasons period, for why some of these feuds are happening. You know, just basic, simple stuff like that. Give us some kind of indication that this pay-per-view is a priority for your company. Is it a priority? I guess we'll find out on June 15th.